day 2 of special votes today. Day 1 got off to a rocky start in certain parts of the country yesterday, with reports of some people being unable to vote. Chaos unfolded in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape due to taxi blockade on the N2 and the R61 roads. As a result, residents were unable to vote. Police are monitoring the situation, as you just heard as well from our reporter Nziki. Let's now bring in the IEC for a roundup on day 1 of special voting. We're in conversation with the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Masego Sheburi. Masego, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's start off in Mthatha. Our reporter just gave us an update that it seems to be business as usual. Security forces still on the ground, including the SANDF. But speak to us about the extent of yesterday's disruption and the impact that has had on the work of the IEC.
Thanks, Aldrin. On the whole, our assessment is that we had a good first day of special votes. For purposes of context, there are 23,992 total voting stations in the country. Of those, 26,600 we had special votes. So it's only about 666 voting stations at which we would not have opened because there were no approved special votes. Even with our best planning, we were challenged in the area of Mthatha and Port Shepstone. There we were unable to open a total of about 107 voting stations. We have made an assessment overnight. We are increasing staff complements there, particularly to deal with people that we need to visit at homes or places of confinement, so that by 5 o'clock today, we would have been able to get around to everyone who has applied successfully for a special vote. The South African Police Department indicated to us that they will be revising their deployment plans and that those plans will be implemented. And if those plans hold, we will be able to administer special votes to everyone who has been approved. From 9 o'clock, we will start sending SMSs directly to the voters in those affected voting districts to alert them that their voting stations are operational, 1, and 2, that they should expect our teams at home, and those who are approved to vote at voting station may descend to their voting stations.
Yeah. Can you confirm whether any vehicle belonging to the IEC or perhaps maybe providing a service to the IEC was targeted in yesterday's protest in Mthatha?
We've seen footages of what purports to be either a ballot paper or special voting list of people or from a vehicle that was impacted in Mthatha. Our information as we speak is that none of our material has been compromised because either it did not leave the stations at all, and those that had already left stations, we were able to get to those stations and operate. In Mthatha alone, there were 38 voting stations that could not operate because the storage facility at which we had our material, access to and out of that facility was blockaded. So we could not move from that voting station. So the material remained in storage. There is no compromise to the voting materials for special votes or even for the 29th of May.
Let's then speak about Hammarsdale as well, which has been a story that we've been covering since over the weekend. What's the latest with regards to what has happened there, and also hear reports of a hostage drama that played out in KwaZulu-Natal?
As you would know, Aldrin, voting happens at voting stations, and you don't just wake up on voting day and have materials at voting stations. So closer to the special vote days, closer to an election, we decentralize our storage to places closer to where we are going to use that material. On Saturday, we were transporting bulk materials as well as ballot papers in Hammarsdale to local storage sites so that we are close to the points of where the materials are going to be used to increase the chances of us opening voting stations on time. Our delivery process was interfered with by people who claimed to be acting or representing a certain political party. The Commission has caused communication to be sent to that party. That party has come back to us officially to distance itself from those persons. To the extent that there's video footage, we have reported the matter to SAPS for criminal investigation because that act alone is criminal, whether it is perpetrated by a party supporter, a party member, or just an ordinary member of the public. So there are two cases, one in Hammarsdale where people interfered with our logistics handling. The other one, and most serious one, was that one of our electoral staff was accosted at night at a place of residence, forced to accompany people unbeknown to her to a facility at which we store material because they wanted to verify that the material was there and the material was safe. So those are the two cases that we are dealing with.
Yep.
With the South African Police Services.
So the incident with the Hammarsdale one, and of course those people gained entry to the property, which they didn't have right to actually. What does this then say about the type of security that people would expect at facilities of this nature, considering the sensitive documents that they are also storing? Was there a breach?
We are increasing security presence, but the security at our facilities was never intended to deal with a mob who are intent on gaining access. It is intended to ensure relative safety from burglary and those type of things. It was never intended to deal with a mob that is hell-bent on gaining access to those facilities. Having discussed with the South African Police Department, there are additional deployments. We are also increasing the headcount of securities at all our overnight storage facilities.
Yeah. What's the intelligence saying? Because you are co-chairing the net joins. Couldn't intelligence pick up that there is this particular incident that could take place? And mind you, this is just days before the special voting. We're not even speaking about election day itself.
In fact, in that area, it was just a series of coincidences. There was presence of a party in the area, and when the materials were being delivered, people saw trucks, and they came onto our facility. We do not think it was something that was premeditated and planned ahead of time, such that the intelligence community would have picked it up.
Yeah. You did say that you've reached out to the political party concerned. We understand that that is the Mkhonto weSizwe political party. One of its members who are listed on the party's list to national for the National Assembly actually tweeted and spoke about vote rigging, which is an allegation that is being made against the IEC. Have you been able to ascertain what the basis of that allegation is?
The allegation, I can say, is baseless from the video footage that I've seen of the incident. He is retweeting the ballot boxes that were in Hammarsdale. You could see clearly from that footage that those ballot boxes are still in their boxes. They are labeled for the VD at which they will be used. They have serial numbers so that we know how many ballot papers were in circulation. Those ballot boxes had not been pre-marked because they were still in their original packaging from a station, because party agents are involved, but their involvement begins at a voting station. So when we roll those materials to voting stations, only then do we start the process of verification at every voting station to say, we have X number of registered voters here at this station. For that reason, we have been provided by Y number of ballot papers. Here are the serial numbers. Parties can record those. And at the end of voting, we reconcile to say, how many ballots did we issue to voters out of the total that we received? How many remain? And we have a ballot paper statement to account for every ballot book and every ballot paper that was issued at that station. So there is no truth to the tweet by Mr. Visvend Reddy.
Okay, and then just quickly, yesterday the update that we got around special voting around 2 p.m. was that around 200,000 votes had been cast, or people visited voting stations. Do you have an update with regards to what the tally is for the rest of day one?
The rest of day one, we are just under 300,000, and just to be correct, those will be the figures for station visits. So people who went to a voting station, because we have our devices at the station, we can tell how many ballots we have issued. We are yet to factor in the rate of people who have visited at homes or places of confinement.
Okay, and then finally, the Section 24A, some people have been caught by surprise Do you think that the IEC has done enough when it comes to voter education, that there's so much that has changed with these elections that are different to the previous elections that we have held? And with that said as well, do you think that there's a possibility that the voter turnout this time around could be lower because of the restrictions that comes with Section 24A and some people not having applied for another voting station that they want to vote at?
Hindsight is always the best teacher. We thought we had done enough, but to the extent that we could have done better, we accept the point. However, we are planning on the basis that there might be an improvement in voter turnout from the 66% that we recorded in 2019. Okay,
thank you so much for your time. That is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Masego Sheburi, on day one of special votes. And of course, today is day two. The voting stations open at around 9 o'clock. And tomorrow, of course, it's the day, the elections in South Africa.